everyone, I'm Khyati Chandu. I'm going to briefly talk about our work on grounding in NLP done with Jonathan Bisk and Alan Black. We as an NLP community have been studying grounding in a variety of contexts. For instance, we collectively worked on grounding in knowledge graphs, ontologies, emotions, and even in multiple modalities such as images, videos, and audios, in addition to text. In NLP, we operate under the assumption that grounding is any kind of linking of text to data or other non-textual modality. For example, in this case, identifying that a group of pixels are mountains. But is this really enough? Deriving inspiration from cognitive sciences, grounding is essentially the process of establishing mutual information collaboratively that is essential for two or more interlocutors to communicate successfully. Our paper investigates the gap in these definitions and some actionable goals for future on how to bridge them. We identify three main dimensions of coordination, purviews, and constraints to establish grounding. After a thorough review of literature of papers on grounding in the last 40 years, we identify that these systemic dimensions are necessary to bring the current state closer to what is missing in grounding. Let us take a closer look at each of these dimensions. Coming to the first dimension, which is coordination in grounding. Traditionally, in the linking sense, the sequence for this form of interaction includes human querying the agent querying the data or knowledge it acquired, agent retrieving and framing a response, and agent delivering it to the human. In this setting, the common ground is the ground truth knowledge base or data. The human and the agent have common ground by assuming its universality without any additional external references. Therefore, successfully grounding the query relies solely on the agent being able to link the query to the data. In contrast, dynamic grounding posits that common ground is built via interactions and clarifications. This reflects human communication more naturally. The steps establishing dynamic grounding is part of the interaction that includes the human querying the agent requesting clarification or acknowledging, the human clarifying or confirming, and these three steps loop until a common ground is established. The remaining steps of querying the data, retrieving or framing a response, and delivering the response are same as that of static grounding. The process of successfully grounding the query not only relies on the ability of the agent to link the query, but also to construct the common ground from the mutually shared information with respect to the human. More concretely, here is an example. In static grounding, when you ask an agent, can you place the dragon fruit on the rack? The bottleneck or the challenge for the agent is to parse or understand the instruction. While this is crucial, it is not a sufficient condition. It is more natural to turn to dynamic grounding in such scenarios. Concretely manifesting it, there are primarily two ways to materialize. First, with respect to language learning, what if the agent does not know what a dragon fruit is? The agent needs to first ask, what is a dragon fruit? Learn from both the language description of reddish pink fruit and the visual input to ask and learn what a dragon fruit is, and use this knowledge later. The second is ambiguity resolution. When there are multiple racks, it is very natural for a human to ask the agent which rack to resolve the ambiguity. We expect the agent to do the same, to ask clarifying question to resolve ambiguity, and then to place it on the second rack. Some of the prospective methods that are commonly used to address this include the following. First, human in the loop error correction. Humans influence the context with their actions. So it is only intuitive for humans and machines to work together to develop this training data. This can be at any of the following three stages, including data collection using adversarial samples, during training with reward score from humans, and third, during inference, by adding satisfied responses to training data with continual learning. The second is iterative refinement, where we can seek inspiration from theory of mind for iteratively or progressively asking and clarifying common ground. Next, moving on to our second dimension of purviews of grounding. The purviews of grounding in humans expand horizons stage by stage. We begin with localization, where we associate or link entities like Robert Downey Jr. to Tony Stark and Iron Man. Next, we ground these concepts to external knowledge. For example, here, when we want to know if Tony Stark is the head of the SHIELD, we refer to external sources, including the movies and the comics, to conclude that he is the head in only one of them. Upon learning about an entity, we also understand some common sense attributes such as Tony Stark is not a real person, but is a character in the Marvel Universe. So any contract is not with Tony Stark himself, but with the actor Robert Downey Jr., who played the role. Finally, we adapt and personalize our responses to people very naturally. So if we have a conversation about Robert Downey Jr. and ask about a movie suggestion, knowing some information like if someone likes Disney movies, I'd like to contextually get Robert Downey Jr.'s Disney movie as a recommendation. I believe this calls upon an opportunity to reevaluate our benchmarking paradigm. Benchmarks have enabled make remarkable successes in research and model development. However, our current benchmarks collate multiple data sets with the same end task to evaluate generalization across them. In addition to this paradigm, we believe that a longitudinal style of benchmarking will expand the purviews to bring tasks closer to the real world scenarios. Here is an example for how this can be designed for a visual dialogue dataset. For the same dataset, we first have an object detection leaderboard, followed by knowledge graph-based response generation leaderboard, followed by visual common sense reasoning leaderboard, and finally, empathetic response generation leaderboard. Intuitively, deriving motivation from neurosymbolic AI seems like a good bet here, with the logical, interpretable compositionality that it has to offer. Anyway, having this bigger picture helps have a set of guiding principles before collecting a future datasets that can potentially increase the longevity of the task and the dataset. Finally, our third dimension on constraints of grounding. These constraints are primarily imposed by the medium of communication. Like we have been discussing throughout the talk, modality is an important medium affecting the nature of interaction. For example, when you and the agent are co-present in the same environment, utterances can include executable actions in the environment like getting you the ball and disambiguating the ball based on the person-centric or the agent-centric views, etc. Certain communications only allow visibility, like in the cases of visual question answering, where both agent and the person talk about an image. Finally, audibility, where the medium constrains possible action spaces as compared to, for example, co-presence. In addition to the modality, the way we give or take cues in an interaction are constrained by the media itself. Here is a table demonstrating the medium of communication in the rows, ranging from face-to-face to video conferencing to emails that are analyzed with respect to the modality and cues like co-temporality to revisability. And finally, welcoming any questions, comments, or feedback. Thank you so much.